Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. Alhamdulillah, so we've finished this first passage, right? And I hope inshallah you guys have understood everything. Bidillah. Now, before just as a quick transition, inshallah, to the next session, I want to read the passage again. I want you guys to close your eyes and then give me a number on how well you understood the passage now by just listening. طيب? Right, eyes closed inshallah. Let's go. مرحبا رامي، كيف حالك؟ أهلا عماد، الحمد لله بخير. كيف الحياة الجديدة في عمان؟ وكيف تقضي يومك؟ الأمور جيدة الحمد لله، أستيقظ مبكرا جدا عادة، وأمشي في الحديقة نصف ساعة، ثم أرجع إلى البيت، أستحم وأفطر، ثم أخرج إلى المكتب. بعد العمل أذهب إلى السوق أو أقابل الأصدقاء، وأعود إلى البيت قبل الليل. أقرأ قليلا، وأشاهد الأخبار، وأنام مبكرا أيضا. ما شاء الله، برنامج لطيف ومرتب. طيب, open your eyes inshallah. What's your number now, mashallah? Where do you guys stand? How was that compared to your first reading? How much of that did you understand by just listening? MashaAllah. There's a 15% increase. That's more than real estate, you know, what real estate gives you as a profit after 5 years. So yeah, that's fine inshallah. That'll happen. Right? Alhamdulillah. So we started with roughly 30% and we are somewhere in the region of 45 to 50%, mashallah, right? We're just listening once. So this is just your second attempt of listening it. So inshallah, the more you expose yourselves, the easier it will become for you to not just absorb and understand things, but in fact also to start understanding the similar words in other contexts, inshallah, right? And you'll be very soon you'll start seeing that you start using these words in your speech and messages and whatnot. طيب, right? So we'll end this session with a practice in phrase mining. We described this practice in our masterclass, right? How do we extract phrases from every single passage that we come across, or every single listening material, anything that we come across in the language that we're trying to learn? How do we extract phrases that are new to us and we think are useful, right? How do we extract them and then save them with us and review them? Of course, inshallah, we'll go through the extraction process. The revision essentially is just to keep in touch with your phrasebook, review the phrasebook every single day, quickly with using the recall method that we described, and to listen to the audio with your eyes closed, right? So the audio, inshallah, and the constant exposure to the words in your phrasebook, inshallah, it will directly translate to your improved understanding and usage of the Arabic language. So, inshallah, as the last segment of this session, inshallah, we'll just look at the dynamics of extracting phrases, so phrase mining itself. طيب, let's look at the first sentence. مرحبا رامي. Right, welcome Rami. That's a phrase that you could use in your own speech. So you write that down in your phrasebook. How? On the left page you say welcome Rami, and on the right you write the Arabic مرحبا رامي. كيف حالك? If you already know the phrases, you don't have to write them. Of course, everyone knows كيف حالك, so we can skip this one. أهلا عماد, right? Or welcome Imad, the same thing. So you can just say welcome Imad and write in front of it Ahlan Imad, right? So that you got two phrases now. طيب, inshallah. And then quickly in your mind, when you review this, inshallah, when you're doing this phrase mining activity, ask yourself, okay, this is a phrase marhaban and ahlan. How do I say this to my mother? Marhaban ya Ummah. How do I say it to my father? You say ahlan ya abati, right? Ahlan ya abati, right? How do I say this to X, Y, Z person? So just start to check yourself, when you're doing this phrase mining itself, okay? So just to see, okay, this is the practice that you need. And sometimes you will feel necessary to the examples that you're thinking of in your mind, to include them inside your phrasebook itself. Okay, inshallah? This one is easy, so we don't need to do that. Let's move on. Right. كيف الحياة الجديدة في عمان? How's a new life? So this new life is a phrase perhaps that you would want to write in your phrasebook. الحياة الجديدة. Jadida is a new word, and itself it means new. Haya means life. So الحياة الجديدة is a phrase that you could use potentially in your phrasebook and your writings and your usage of the language. So كيف الحياة الجديدة? That's a phrase. كيف الحياة الجديدة? You could extract this as itself, by itself. So كيف الحياة الجديدة? How's your new life? Or how's the new life? But you could contextualize it by saying in the place X, Y, and Z. Okay. Now think about the potential, or visualize the potential usage of this phrase. Perhaps you have a cousin or a family member or a friend who's just made hijrah to a Muslim country, and you want to ask them كيف الحياة الجديدة في مثلا they moved to Turkey, so you say كيف الحياة الجديدة في تركيا. Or if they move to Pakistan, how's the new life? كيف الحياة الجديدة في Pakistan. Make sense, inshallah? So as you're extracting phrases, you're thinking of its use cases in your mind. Okay, inshallah? And if you perhaps think of a use case and you don't exactly know how to use this particular phrase in that situation, well, we have our translation tools. Quickly check it and then make a note of that in your phrasebook the same way. English on the left and Arabic to the right. Okay, inshallah? وكيف تقضي يومك? How do you spend your day? Okay? كيف تقضي يومك? And we tried some of this in the lesson when we said, okay, how do you spend your night? كيف تقضي ليلك? So this is a phrase, كيف تقضي? How do you spend? كيف تقضي مساءك? How do you spend your evening? Right? كيف تقضي ظهرك? Just replace the times. صباحك. كيف تقضي صباحك? How do you spend your morning? So just change the time that you're asking about. كيف تقضي? Alright. How do you spend your holidays? كيف تقضي عطلتك? Make sense, inshallah? Are you guys following me on this? Bismillah. Okay. So this is a process. كيف تقضي عطلتك? How do you spend your holidays? كيف تقضي صيفك? How do you spend your summer? طيب. كيف تقضي شتاءك? The more use cases you can imagine while you're going through this process, inshallah, right? The easier it will become for you to go through this inshallah usage. Sometimes it's not important to go through all this visualization in your mind, and you can probably at this stage perhaps even skip it altogether. But it's a good idea to have at least think of one or two examples where you could use it, just to contextualize it for yourself, and it actually helps you memorize it to some degree there and then, and it helps you with the review afterwards. Okay, inshallah? So كيف تقضي يومك? Right, how would you say, how does he spend his day? كيف يقضي يومك? Right, and if you're doubtful about yourself, or كيف أقضي يومك? How do I spend my day? لابد أن أرتب اليوم. I have to organize my day. Right, لابد أن أرتب يومي. Right, we've done the word ترتيب, right? We've done the word مرتب, organized. So كيف أرتب? That's a word for you. كيف أرتب يومي? And you can make a note of this, inshallah. كيف أرتب يومي? How do I organize my day? Right? كيف أقضي يومي? Right? كيف أرتب يومي? How do I organize my day? Right? If you, as an answer, if you find that, if you ask the question, كيف أقضي يومي? How do I spend my day? And then you realize that you don't spend your day well, you can say, okay, طيب, لابد أن أرتب. I have to organize. Right? Okay. The next question is, how do I organize? كيف أرتب يومي? How do I organize my day? And so on and so forth. Is everyone following, inshallah? So this is an exercise that you guys have with yourselves. Okay? We've had this exercise to some degree in the lesson, but this is something, inshallah. This is your part to play, inshallah. طيب? Once you're done. Okay, now that's another phrase. الأمور جيدة. Of course, كل شيء على ما يرام will not be used in this context because the person, the friend of Rami, Imad, he's asking about his new life, right? So of course he can't just say, oh, everything is, as usual, because of course not everything is as usual, because he's not in the same place anymore. He's moved, right? So of course he wants to ask how is everything in the new place, and he can't say everything is as usual. So you say everything is good. You know, الأمور جيدة, right? الأمور جيدة. طيب, that's a phrase for you. Things are good. الأمور جيدة. I write that down. Extract it as it is. Okay. أستيقظ مبكرا جدا عادة. I usually wake up very early. I think about this. How does he wake up? Or he wakes up. How do you say he wakes up? Or يستيقظ. Or how does she wake up? يستيقظ. How do we say we wake up? نستيقظ. You just add the nu, the na at the end. We've just done the activity with a, ya, enta, but you can replace it with the na as well. And these are the only 4 beginnings that you can have, right? So there's no fifth beginning to a verb in this case. طيب إن شاء الله. أستيقظ مبكرا جدا عادة. Okay. How would you say I wake up early sometimes? You would say, okay, I probably know how to say it, perhaps, or you don't. Just you use a translation tool, whatever the case may be. So think about these use cases of how could you possibly use this? Right? Someone says to you, when does your father wake up? And you speak to him, right? You say, يستيقظ متأخرا. And you can say, he wakes up, late. Perhaps. You may call it later. You may want to call it later, whatever the case. Or you can say, هو يستيقظ متأخرا جدا. Like he wakes up really late, right? So you're not going to speak to him today at all. Whatever the case. So you can visualize these scenarios in your mind, 1 or 2 or 3, inshallah. And then inshallah, work with the key phrase that you're looking at, which is أستيقظ مبكرا. Replace the parts. مبكرا متأخرا. جدا, replace it. عادة, usually. أحيانا, sometimes. Okay, so that way, from just this one sentence, you can make at least 3 to 4 to 5 phrases. أستيقظ متأخرا جدا, or without it, or أستيقظ مبكرا أحيانا, or أستيقظ متأخرا أحيانا. Sometimes I wake up early, sometimes I wake up late. That's another phrase for you. And so you can test yourself in your mind. And if there's anything that you can't answer comfortably, then you can perhaps look it up and make it a part of your phrase book. طيب inshallah. In any case, moving a bit quicker, أمشي في الحديقة, or أمشي في whatever the place, wherever you're walking. So make sure you sort of just try and use the same verb, inshallah, in other circumstances. أمشي في الحديقة, or أمشي في الشارع, I walk in the street. طيب أمشي في البستان, أمشي في المدرسة, I walk in the school, X, Y, and Z, right? So case scenarios, inshallah, and just extract them and mention them in your phrase book. Is everyone clear on the process so far, inshallah? These phrases that I'm describing, right, the way I'm describing, inshallah, you guys need to make sure you add them in your phrase books. So I'm not just doing an activity. You have to add these phrases to your, inshallah, phrase books. طيب, inshallah. Right. نصف ساعة, for half an hour. أمشي نصف ساعة. أمشي ساعة. How do you then experiment with, okay, how can I say, for example, I walk for 2 hours, ساعتين. How do I say I walk for 1.5 hours, ساعة ونصف, right? And so forth. طيب inshallah. Right. Then ثم أرجع. That's a phrase for you. أرجع إلى البيت, أرجع إلى المكتب, I return to the office, I return to the school, I return to my house, بيتي, I return to my work, عمل. Think of these scenarios and then inshallah see if you can test yourself as you're making this part of your phrase book, and you continue like that. This is active reading and active extraction of vocabulary and phrases. So inshallah, and you repeat the process. So over here, أمشي في الحديقة, أمشي في, so that's a phrase. نصف ساعة, أمشي نصف ساعة, أمشي ساعتين, that's another phrase for you. ثم أرجع إلى, that's, you can just stop there, perhaps, it's fine, it's not so difficult. So أرجع إلى البيت, أرجع إلى المكتب, and so on and so forth, just that's a phrase for you. أرجع إلى. ثم أرجع, the ثم, the usage of ثم perhaps could be useful to just include ثم in that sentence, inshallah. Okay. أستحم وأفطر. That's a phrase for you. أستحم وأفطر. Just include it as it is. I take a shower and I have breakfast and that's it. Done. ثم أخرج إلى المكتب. ثم أخرج إلى. Right, again, that's a phrase. ثم أخرج إلى. Include the entire sentence and then in your mind test yourself on different case scenarios. And if there's any case scenario that you can't comfortably translate, add that as as part of your Facebook, inshallah. طيب. بعد العمل أذهب إلى السوق. After work, أذهب إلى السوق. بعد العمل. That's a phrase for you. بعد العمل. Okay. بعد الطبخ. After cooking. بعد الدراسة. After studying. Okay. بعد التدريس. After teaching. Okay. وبعد تناول الطعام. After eating. So activities that you can imagine, inshallah. So use the word بعد. That's the phrase that we're using, or we're trying to contextualize بعد in a sentence, right? So بعد. أذهب, again, أذهب إلى السوق. أذهب إلى المدرسة. أذهب إلى البيت, and so on and so forth. طيب. And then أقابل الأصدقاء. أقابل الأسرة. I meet friends. أقابل الأسرة, family. I meet مثلا إخوتي. I meet my brothers, right? And so on and so forth. My siblings, whatnot. Okay, that's another phrase for you. Just change the case scenarios and see how well it does in your mind. And if there's anything that you get stuck at, you use the translation tool or ask us, inshallah. Either way, it's fine. And then use that phrase then to just add that in your phrase book. وأعود إلى البيت. Then I return to البيت. That's a phrase for you. قبل الليل. قبل المساء. قبل النهار. And so on and so forth. The case scenarios of قبل, before. So, or you can say, for example, أأكل قبل أن أصلي. I eat before I pray. قبل أن أصلي. قبل صلاة. قبل الصلاة. Or you can say that as well. قبل الصلاة, before the prayer. I eat. أأكل قبل الصلاة. I eat before the prayer. أأكل قبل الصلاة. أقرأ قليلا. أقرأ كثيرا. يقرأ, he reads. تقرأ, نقرأ, we read. نقرأ, تقرأ, she reads, or you read. تقرأ, so on and so forth. Okay. And that's another phrase for you. أقرأ القليل. Okay. Moving on. So أشاهد الأخبار. أشاهد. We've done this in the lesson itself. So أشاهد الأخبار. أشاهد مثل مسابقة. The competition. X1. Whatever you're witnessing. أشاهد. Right? And then use the phrase. So test yourself in the case scenarios, inshallah. And then make that part of your phrase book if need be. And lastly, anamu. So it's the opposite of astayqidu. Okay, inshallah. So astayqidu, wake up, I wake up. Anamu, I sleep. And then the same thing with mubakkiran, mutaakhiran. And aidan, of course, as well, because of course this person is very organized. So they wake up and sleep early. Right? So they say, I sleep early as well. And so on and so forth. Tayyib, inshallah. Now this is a new word for you, barnamij, right? This is going to be used a lot. I mean, our program is called what? Barnamij ad-da'i, right? Barnamij ad-da'i, it's a da'i program. So barnamij, this is a program. Is any sort of schedule program, right? It's called barnamij. Latifun wa murattab. Latif, nice, gentle, you know. And murattab, organized. Alhamdulillah. Okay? If you want to go a bit ahead, you can look through read through these Arabic tips and then transform them into your Arabic phrases as well. For example, we said للكتابة عن البرنامج اليومي, to write about the daily routine. That's a phrase for you, right? Include that in your phrase book. نستخدم الزمن المضارع. We use the present tense. That's a phrase for you. Okay? Okay. And then للكتابة عن تكرار. We've done للكتابة عن, but as another example, perhaps, of the same thing, you can include this phrase as well, just for extra clarification in your phrase book and when you're testing, it makes more sense. للكتابة عن تكرار الأنشطة اليومية. أنشطة, activities, يومية, daily. تكرار, repetition. For writing about the repetition of activities, the daily activities. للكتابة عن تكرار الأنشطة اليومية, and you test on that. So that's a phrase for you. للكتابة عن تكرار الأنشطة اليومية. English, and then in front of it the Arabic, and that's, you're good to go, inshallah. طيب. Right. And of course the phrases, inshallah, that you can't think of any case scenario for, just stick to what's on the passage in the passage, and extract that and put it in your phrase book. Don't think too hard about it, and just keep moving. You don't have to imagine every case scenario. Of course, some case scenarios are going to present themselves to you. You can't imagine everything. It's the imagining activity is just to make sure that you make more sense of the thing, and it helps you recall things better the next day. Okay, it's completely fine to skip this idea, this whole case scenario thing, as well. So long you are extracting the phrases with full understanding. Okay. Again, the word نستخدم كلمات وعبارات. We use words and phrases. نستخدم. Okay, inshallah. Right, and moving on. So all you've done all these words, inshallah, يوميا في العادة عادة غالبا, so on and so forth. لذكر الوقت, for mentioning the time, that's a phrase for you. لذكر الوقت, to mention the time. And then another phrase is يمكن أن نقول, it's possible for us to say, right? We can say this, we can say يمكن أن نقول, we can say, or it's possible for us to say, that's another phrase, right? يمكن أن نقول, it's possible for us to say, and so on and so forth, right? And you can say whatever you want, right? يمكن أن نقول, for example, you say, you think of a case scenario where perhaps you watched a debate, right? Let's say, and you think that person A won the debate, right? Perhaps, right? You can say يمكن أن نقول الرجل الأول قد فاز في هذه المسابقة وفي هذه اللقاء, right? A debate, a مناقشة. طيب إن شاء الله يمكن أن نقول, it's possible for us to say, it's possible for us to say. طيب, so any Arabic is your resource for learning Arabic. No Arabic is useless Arabic. Just go through it and extract phrases. The more phrase extraction you can do, inshallah. In fact, it's quite nice. It's very fun to do this. In my practice, it's very addictive in a sense that you get in a habit of doing this with everything, inshallah. And you just keep filling. Like, you don't have to worry about feeding. You don't have to worry about remembering anything. You don't have to worry about memorizing anything by rote, right? Yes, of course, to make things stick when they don't stick, you can use some mnemonics and some tricks, for example. But the process is simple. You keep reading and you keep extracting and you keep putting them in your phrase book and you keep reviewing your phrase book. And over time, inshallah, everything will come together. Everything will click. Okay? If you just keep trusting the process, you just trust the process, keep going, right? And not bother yourself with, it's too much for today, for example, or you feel burdened, right? In fact, you wouldn't feel burdened most of the time because you're just extracting things, and you know that you're just going to keep reviewing it over and over, and it will come together at some point, inshallah. So, just trust the process, inshallah, and stick to the activity of phrase mining. Okay, so umarisu riyada, I practice sports. Umarisu is to practice. Umarisu riyada, I practice sports. Literally, or I play sports. Okay. umarisu riyada fi sabah or sabahan. Now this sentence is teaching you the usage of sabah fi sabah and sabahan, to extract both of these and write them in your phrase book. So on the left, perhaps you can say I play sports in the morning, and on the right, so on the left you write the English, I play sports in the morning, right? And then on the right you can add both of the sentences together underneath one another to, inshallah, do this. Okay, طيب, inshallah. So that's the end of our session for today, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, it was very active, I believe, and all of you must be exhausted by now. I just wanted to point out some words here. So جدول النشاط اليومي, the timetable for daily activities. جدول النشاط اليومي. Okay, جدول النشاط اليومي. جدول النشاط اليومي. Okay. These are your names for the days: السبت, Saturday; الأحد, Sunday; الاثنين, Monday; and الثلاثاء, Tuesday; الأربعاء, Wednesday; الخميس, Thursday; الجمعة, Friday. لغة عامة, general language, right? Daily language of daily use. And المبتدئ والأدنى, the beginner level. Okay, so the entry level beginner, right? So the lower beginner level, essentially. طيب, inshallah. Right. And what else? So these are your words. You can perhaps decide to include them, but don't include, words on their own. Individual words will not help you. Include phrases and sentences as we've just done. Okay, they've given you some examples of expressions to take, right? And we've done it in our way, in a bit more extensive manner. So stick to that way of doing things, inshallah. طيب. Any questions before we end, inshallah? Is everyone clear on the process of phrase mining? طيب بإذن الله تعالى, this will be the end of our session, and I'll see you guys tomorrow بإذن الله. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.